Welcome back, guys. So, for grammar, we're back to doing grammar. Like I mentioned, if you watched the last video, if not, I've also mentioned this as class. At least I know that I have because I've constantly kept coming back to it. We're not officially done with the irregular forms of the preterite tense, which is, like I said, preterite tense is basically like Spanish too. That's what we drill into you. So we started irregulars. We did 4 of them last chapter, but we're going to finish with the last 3 basically this chapter, and then you're going to have still irregular verbs in the preterite tense, something called car, gar, zar verbs, which is going to be still irregular preterite tense spellings. That'll be the next video, though. That'll be the last thing that we do for this quarter/module as well. So today we're doing 3 of them because technically 2 of them, as you can see here, said and id, follow the same chart. So yes, that might be confusing because they are 2 completely different verbs this time, right? It's not like they mean the same thing and just like in a different context of, I don't know, 1 person versus 2 people, but they just mean completely different things, have the same chart though. So I'll go through these, give you obviously example sentences for them, but this is on your modules. It's called ser, ir, and estar, preterite tense notes. So that's exactly what I'm looking at right now. You guys have 2 verbs that we have had previously, obviously. We'll hopefully remember what they mean. But these are always going to be irregular verbs. They don't tend to follow the basic verb conjugation patterns, which usually would be you take off the last 2 letters, keep whatever is in front of it, right? And then just change the endings depending as to who you're talking about for what actually fits it. We know that said, when you first had it, right, that fateful day in Spanish 1, it doesn't necessarily follow that rule because last year when you were talking about said, it wasn't like you just dropped the ER and then put the O for it to be about yourself. Instead, it was an OY, so it was irregular. And then for the second, for thu, it wouldn't just be the ES. It's technically ERES, ERES. So like the first original S1OA as well. So it was irregular back then. It's totally regular now. It will continue to be irregular. It's just one of those like frequently used, always irregular verbs that you come across. So this is the chart for said. So I'm saying that I was, or other people were, right? So to be in the past. Yo fui would be I was. So I could say like, yo fui muy artística. I used to be really artistic or creativa. I was really creative when I was younger. Tú fuiste mi amigo. You were my friend, right? So things that you are talking about that were in the past. One person, fue. So mi amiga fue, let's see, muy inteligente. Sure, why not? Now she's not, I guess. Nosotros fuimos muy cómicos. We were funny back then when we were less stressed. And then lots of people fueron. Fueron muy, what could I say? Muy atléticos. Now they're too old and don't do stuff, I guess. Either way, you're talking about things that were. You, bunch of people, things, doesn't matter, a noun of some kind. Now you also have the same chart that goes for ir. Ir means to go. It was also irregular in the present tense. You don't even have an ending to take away because if you take away the last 2 letters, it's the entire word. So if it was a present tense word, that was like voy, vas, va from last year. So in this time, because it's going to be the irregular form and it's the preterite form still, you're going to be looking at the same chart. So yo fui a Golden Valley High School because I did. That's where I graduated. Tú fuiste a Nevada para Navidad. You went to Vegas or Nevada for Christmas. One person fue a la playa. They went to the beach. Nosotros fuimos a la escuela en persona. We used to go to in-person school, right? And ellos or ellas or ustedes are just a bunch of people that don't include you. Fueron a un restaurante. Again, back then when we could. So it's just about going places. Most likely going to deal with people because they're going to be doing some sort of activity of going somewhere, right? But basically the same thing. Hopefully you remember. And I think I might add that to your module if I haven't just yet because I'm thinking of it now. We have to remember what basic rules are usually broken when it comes to irregular tenses or irregular forms, right, of this verb. Usually, the 2 most popular verbs, or the most popular rules that are broken, are that whatever word you're looking at doesn't follow the accent rules. Again, the accent rule, if you remember, is that yo has an accent, and that one individual, like él, ella, or usted, has the accent as well. So basically, they would have an accent here, and they would have one here. This one does not follow that rule, which is why it's irregular. It breaks one of the most commonly known as regular preterite tense conjugation rules. The other one is that it's a stem changer. So yes, technically this is still a stem changer. It's not a boot verb, like I mentioned last time. Hopefully remember there are different types of stem changers. Some of them are referred to as boot verbs because they end up changing the spelling. Remember the stem, these are tiny stems. This doesn't only has like a letter. But the stem is pretty much anything that would go in front of the two letters that you're constantly changing. So yeah, technically it has a stem. It's just a letter, but there's still something there. So technically this is a stem changer because that letter is being changed. In this case, you're getting an FU. That doesn't usually happen in some of the others. Or at least it doesn't even occur in the normal word as it is. So that's why it's also irregular. It changes its spelling. It's not the way it normally looks. Same thing for eat. This doesn't even have like a stem, right? It's just like two letters and then that's it. So it falls under those broken rules, right? No accents when it comes to the yo or the individual person that you're talking about. And the spelling is completely like different than what you normally see in the verb. It changes its spelling. So it breaks both of those rules to different degrees, but it breaks them. The second verb, because we always use ser and estar because they both mean the same thing, if you remember. Remember the doctor and the place, same rules apply here. Is going to be estar. Estar still means to be, but hopefully you remember why it means this. This is when you use it for like the word place, right? If it's like a position of something, if it's next to, behind, under. If it's a location like at home, in my room, at school. If it's an action, so are they going to be doing something? I was reading, I was eating, I was cleaning, whatever you were doing. It could be a condition of something, like my phone was new, my room was dirty, like that was a condition it was in. And then it could be an emotion. I was happy, I was sad, I was tired, I was angry, whatever you were. So same thing, still means to be, it's just in a different context. So thinking of the two rules we just talked about, you kind of see you have a different letter that's also added here. So yes, it's still considered a stem changer. If you notice the word estar, you have AR, which always you end up changing. Est would be the stem or like the root of the original word. You do have most of it, but look, there's an actual U there that's across the entire chart that isn't in the original word. So stem changer, yes, that rule is also, or that category that it falls under for an irregular verb works, right? Because if it ends up changing, it's considered, like the stem ends up changing, it's considered an irregular verb. So that's why it's here. You have a U that you don't usually see in the stem. And again, the accent rules not followed. So I'll give you sample sentences like usual. Yo estuve, what could I have been doing? Yo estuve limpiando mi cuarto. I was cleaning my room. This is going, because I did an action, and a lot of these are probably going to be actions. You're going to have a new ending that we will come across probably the start of next module, like second semester for you guys, because we're still wrapping up the irregular verb forms this module. But that like ing that I just said, limpiando, A-N-D-O, we will come back to. So just for you to know, that's kind of a hint of what's to come. For the second one, for tú. Tú estuviste muy cansado. You were really tired. One person, mi mamá or somebody, estuvo en su cuarto. She was in her room. Nosotros estuvimos descansando. We were relaxing. And lots of people, so like ellos, whoever they could have been, estuvieron, what could they have been doing? Estuvieron en la sala. They were in the living room there. So it's again past tense. Breaks the usual rules. There's no accents where they should be. It's a stem changer. Makes sense. So we're going to practice both, or all three of these, I should say. All these three verbs, both of these two charts in this upcoming week. And then, of course, I'll keep refreshing, or reminding you, I should say, of what makes it an irregular verb. What are the two rules that irregular verbs like usually end up breaking? And then just kind of practicing with you guys for the final, because you're going to have that coming up in a little bit too. Okay, so I'll talk to you guys in class. Hopefully this was relatively easy. And then if you don't get something, ask me, message me. I'll help you out. All right, see ya.